Hey guys, I'm Erica, and today I'm just going to talk a little bit about what I've learned during my time in Human Communication Studies 100. So the first thing I want to go over is the different ways of communicating. So to be an effective communicator, there are a lot of different aspects, and it involves communicating one-on-one, in a speech, and even in groups, like with your friends or with other professors, peers. The communication process encompasses pretty much every part of life. So the four main parts are academic, professional, personal, and community-based. Academically, in this class, I've learned how to effectively and efficiently communicate with my professors. In Chapter 2 of An Introduction to Communication Studies, we read about perceptions and how we perceive different aspects of communication, whether that's facial features and like how you react to things. And it's not only just about what you say. So we only pay attention to things that interest us or that we have a need for. So this can create many problems, especially when we're trying to recall information like in a class or something that you learned. So I learned how to overcome this problem and truly listen to both my professors and my peers, which helps me become a better communicator. In a professional sense, the readings about the dark side were extremely important. I learned that 25% of all workers are chronically angry, and just knowing that can help you realize that internalizing anger is never good, and it always leads to an explosion of some sort. So it's important to communicate feelings of frustration, especially in the workforce, like if you're frustrated at a boss. And then I also learned about personal communications. So again, from the dark side readings, I learned that lying is very bad and it can damage relationships, and that when you lie, even if you tell like a small fib or something, it can start like this kind of effect that just rolls and keeps going with it, especially with more personal and relationships. So going forth, I can try to be as truthful as possible instead of telling little fibs at the beginning of getting to know people. Now I can realize the impacts that they have. And then in community-based communication, the audience analysis that we learned how to do in class was really important, because taking what my community is compromised of, I can do my best to represent them in different activities, especially being a competitive jump roper. When I go to teach kids in the community how to jump and things, it'll be really helpful to know a little bit more about their backstory to go along with teaching them. So at the beginning of the semester, I would say that my communication competence was a 5. However, now I'd say it's around a 7 or a 7.5. So I've come a long way. Just some of the ways that I've improved, because there are a lot of them. First, I have improved my public speaking. So before, I wasn't bad at it, but I've kind of learned how to step out of my comfort zone a little bit more. And also the audience analysis portion, like I mentioned earlier, is very important, because now I know how to keep everything relevant for the audience, and that will just help overall in a bunch of different aspects of life. Second off, I have improved my communication, especially with professors. Before, I used to always email them because I was terrified to go up and talk to them in person, but now I'm realizing I'm kind of like stepping out of my comfort zone more. I learned that emailing a professor isn't always the best way to go, just because sometimes your emails can get misinterpreted, and when they get misinterpreted, bad things can happen. So I've started communicating with my professors during their office hours and before and after class. And then lastly, learning about WIO's laws. So I thought that was really important, because it taught me that everything I say will be interpreted different ways by different people. So I could say something to a professor and it get interpreted a totally different way than I mean it to. And then I could say the same thing to one of my friends later, like arguing about like, hey, they misinterpreted this. And my friend could take it as a different way than I even did. So I've learned that the more complicated communication is, like the more communication there is. And then I have began to realize how everything gets interpreted so differently, so I become more aware of my situation, and then that in turn makes sure that I am a better communicator. And then the most important thing I think I learned in the class is about the dark side of communication. With the lying, I never realized how important it was to not tell little fibs, because I would always when I got to know someone, when I was introducing myself, I might fib a little bit, not full out lie, but just make something up or tweak it to make myself sound more impressive. But then I realized there really isn't any point, because at some point it's going to come out anyway, and then when it does come out, it's going to be worse than if you just hadn't fibbed or lied in the first place. So overall, I'm very glad that I had the opportunity to take this class. I feel like I've learned a lot, and it's definitely going to help me going down the road.